If you're a veteran, you could be losing thousands of dollars a month by not correctly filing your VA disability benefits and getting the benefits that you actually deserve. And today I want to talk through what the 7 biggest mistakes are and how you can avoid them to set yourself up for success. The biggest mistake that veterans make is just not filing. Whether this is a daunting thing where you're just like, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming, I don't want to do it, or I don't know how to do it, or I wish someone would hold my hand, or it's a pride thing where you're like, I don't want to milk the system, I don't think I got hurt, I don't whatever. At the end of the day, you should put in a claim when you're leaving the military, and if you're already out, you should put in a claim now for anything and everything that happened in service that you believe is either a current injury, a past injury, or has the potential to become a future injury. An example of that would be the burn pits. If you were in Iraq, Afghanistan, you had to stir the poo, do the burn pit thing, like I did, where you light a pit of trash on fire with a flamethrower and you're inhaling all this nasty fumes. That burn pit registry is something that just gets put in your record. You could be 100% healthy right now, but what you don't know is at 60 years of age, maybe you're going to develop lung cancer that could be directly linked to that burn pit. And if you don't file and just say, hey, I'm on the burn pit registry because I did this crap, then you might just be dealing with your lung cancer on your own when the VA could take care of all of it for you. And you won't even know about that ramification for 30, 40 years. So just file now. I've got all kinds of things that have developed more or become more of an issue since I left the service. And had I not filed, I would be kind of up shit creek, right? And a good friend of mine, actually, we were just having this conversation the other day, and he's like, oh yeah, I never filed. I'm at 0% because I, XYZ. And I'm like, bro, I'm not going to give any specifics because I don't want anyone to know who I'm talking about, but homeboy has some stuff that came up and he's just never filed, right? And I'm like, dude, take care of yourself, take care of your family, right? Go and file. It's a little bit of extra money, but it's also the healthcare, the benefits, all the other stuff. Don't let your pride or laziness get in the way of the fact that you've earned these benefits. You fought for the country. Number 2 is what we call missing the nexus, which is essentially not correctly tying the event to service. When I first filed for VA disability, it's actually kind of comical because this is one of the things that came back as a mistake. So I have a hearing aid. I'm not wearing it right now because I'm talking, not listening, right? I got issued that hearing aid a year or 2 after my deployment where, we had guns going off, not always with ear pro, but I got blown up in Afghanistan. I drove over an IED. We were in a truck in our MRAP. Ultimately, we're fine, some minor things, but like a TBI or I guess I shouldn't downplay, had some injuries, but we're okay. But this ear is not deaf, but it's not great. And so I have a hearing aid for this year. And then obviously I've got tinnitus in both. And when I filed my disability claim, I filed my hearing stuff, and this year clearly met the standard for receiving disability, which is why they gave me a hearing aid in the first place. And then I filed my combat action ribbon certificate, which stated, got blown up in Afghanistan, when, where, whatever, as my proof of hey, this is combat related, service connected, as they call it. And the VA in their website, they were like, yep, meets the standard. Yep, we see the certificate. Denied, not service connected. And I had to go and refile again. And then they were like, oh, shoot, that was an egregious error on our part. Yep, back paid, you're covered, you're dated, whatever, our bad. But had I not had that service connection proof or it in my record, they could have been like, well, how do we know this didn't happen elsewhere? Now, fair, you pass an audiogram when you join, you pass audiograms throughout so you can see it happen while serving, but they have to make sure that it's service connected. And so you've just got to make sure that you're taken care of. So you've got to be able to tie whatever this injury is to service connection. So if you lied about something while you were joining the military and now you're trying to get VA benefits on it, first off, shame on you. Second, unless you can tie it to military service, you may not get those benefits, and really you shouldn't because it wasn't a military service thing, right? But that's the whole point here. So this is the reason you need to go document stuff while you're serving. Anytime you get injured or something comes up or you think about whatever, hey, go talk about it so that it's in your record so that down the road you can be like, it happened right there. That's when I saw somebody about it. Here's why. It clearly happened in the military. That's the nexus. This ties right into number 3, which is incomplete medical evidence, right? Lack of supporting documents or specialist opinions. So you're going to want to see people. You're going to want to go to these CMP exams as they set you up for. Talk through it. Bring the documents. Bring the proof of what happened. Bring the, show them the whatever went wrong, and be honest about it. And again, this goes back to while serving, you need to document everything that's going on. I know that pride gets in the way a lot with people who are serving. And if you didn't, then, you need to go and get statements from people who were with you, or you need to get evaluations that can show it. Like, you're going to have to work to build out this paper trail to prove that it was military service connected. Number 4 here, and I see this one a lot, is underreporting symptoms, i.e. downplaying at your CMP exams, right? So when you file your claim, they're going to send you on these CMP exams, which stands for compensation and pension exam, right? But a CMP exam is basically a follow-up with the doctor to evaluate you on the issue you're claiming. Case in point, with TBI, PTSD stuff, I had to go talk to a counselor. With the knee, I had to go do range of motion tests with somebody. With my lumbosacral like strain or whatever, I had to do range of motion stuff, and the bendies and the flexies and the spinnies and the whatever. I had to do one for audio where they did all the tests to see what was up with my ear. You're going to go and do these tests to like see what level you're actually at and get evaluated and whatever. And what happens is service members and vets like to downplay. We like to always pretend everything's okay. We're great. Everything's wonderful. Like, it's not that big a deal. I'm big and tough. Look at me. Like, yeah, I'm deaf in one ear, but like, no big deal, right? And you're shooting yourself in the foot. The moment you walk in the door for that CMP exam, you are getting evaluated. The moment. So let's say you're going in to get evaluated for like PTSD, depression, right? And you walk into the counselor's office, and he's like, how you doing today? And you're like, great. I'm on top of the world. How are you? He's like, doesn't seem depressed. That's what he's thinking, right? So like, you're setting yourself up for failure when then like you flip a switch and you're like, oh, but I'm so, like, be honest. Don't do the niceties. Don't, like, hey man, how you doing today? Oh, actually just another day. Like, today's, I got this going on, but I'm kind of working through it. Like, whatever, like, be honest. I'm not saying to lie to them and like overplay everything, but like, for example, when you do a range of motion test and you like spin, like, don't like spin and then like grab something and be like, oh, like, you just go until you feel the pain and immediately stop. Even if you could go another like 2-3 degrees, like, you go until it hurts and then stop. And if you like doing the knee stuff, like, oh my gosh, my knee's been acting a fool this week because I started running again. Like, I can squat all the way down until my ass touches my ankles. But my left knee, like halfway there, is going to start freaking screaming at me, and I'm going to have to force that, and I'm going to feel it for like days. So don't go all the way to ass to ankles to show off and suffer through the pain, because you just screwed yourself. Go down to where you're like, ow, okay, wherever that point is, and then stop and be like, yep, this knee could keep going, but that knee, like, actually pay attention to your body. And like, the moment something's bothering you, lay off it. If you're talking about mental stuff, be honest, be vulnerable, be open. If you're doing the hearing test, don't click the stupid audiogram button trying to pass the test. Like, only click it when you hear the thing. Be honest, right? Don't downplay your situation because your CMP examiner is going to be like, oh, he looks fine. Oh, it's not as bad as he thought, right? Like, I ended up having to do the stupid like range of motion thing like 3 different times because people kept messing it up. But the very first time, I went in and I tried to like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm great. And so they came back and they were like, we're fine. And I was like, well, hang on. I think I messed that up. And then luckily they gave me another chance, and then it was like the real measurements, and then they lost those, so I had to do it again. But like, it's a whole thing. So just don't downplay, be honest about your symptoms, but don't overplay. Don't try to game the system. You're not helping anybody but yourself with that, and you're screwing the system up for everybody else if you're lying to get money out of the government. Missing deadlines is the 5th thing here. This is for like appeals, supplemental claims, and submitting evidence. I'll give you the timelines here in a little bit. I'll talk through like those timelines for different things. But if there are deadlines and timelines for, your submissions, make sure you hit those. Like, we know that we can't guarantee the VA or the government is going to be punctual about getting back to you. But if you miss deadlines, they aren't forgiving. So like, do what you're supposed to do within the timeline you're supposed to do it to set yourself up for success. Number 6, and this is actually a very common one, is not filing for secondary conditions. So a secondary condition is something that is a byproduct of an initial situation. A lot of people overlook these connected disabilities and they just don't realize that some of this stuff is there. At some point in my military service, I apparently pinched a nerve here somewhere in my neck. I don't remember which C, whatever. And I believe this was due to the IED, right? That's the only thing in my head that makes sense for like where I would have potentially compressed a little bit to mess that up. And so, that would be the injury, right? IED. And then as a byproduct of that, I have what's called like radiculopathy, which is basically like when I set my arm up on like a pew or whatever, my arm goes numb very quickly. And there's some like tingly stuff and like my finger sensation, whatever, like we did the shock thingy, and it's not all great. And that would be considered like a secondary condition to the initial piece. Another example would be if you had a knee injury, like I had my PCL replaced at one point, and if that led to a back injury over time, then the back injury could be considered a secondary to the knee. And so you can claim these secondary items. So you may not have a direct service connection for why your back hurts, but you might be able to tie it to, oh yeah, I had my knee f***ed up, and because of that, I walk different, and that messed up my back, or, whatever the case may be. Like, for example, for me, I have a lumbosacral strain. It could be tied to the IAD, I'm sure, but they tied it as a secondary to my knee surgery, and my foot got crushed under a truck at one point. Man, I'm sounding like a broken record over here, but like these are all little things that just add up. Like my left leg is just not the same as my right leg, and as such, they tied my lumbosacral strain to my leg injury as a secondary rather than tying it to the IAD as a primary. Doesn't make a difference as far as the rating because the injury is the same, but there's just different ways to connect stuff. So if you have a secondary thing and you're like, this is probably caused by that, then connect it. That's an easy button way to help get stuff approved. Because if this is already a service-connected, disability, and now you just have something that's tied to it, you don't have to go through as much for like service connection and evidence and whatever, because it's like, no, this was caused by that. Then number 7 here is doing it alone. Right now, you're filing your initial claim, sure, and you can go work with a VSO from the VA and they'll be great. There's also a bunch of companies out there who try to do this. I'm honestly not a huge fan of most of them. And if you're going to work with someone, definitely don't work with someone who does a percentage of back pay, because percentage of back pay just incentivizes them to be slower, because the longer it takes for you to get your results, the more that percentage of back pay goes up, because you're going to get more back pay when you finally get paid. And so there's just a lot of these companies that I think they're not genuine. So I've got a friend I can introduce you guys to. We're actually looking at rolling out this as a service for within my community. There's a definite need for service members and vets to have help filing this claim. And there's just a lot of companies that do it, and they either try to get you to like lie about stuff, or they try to like guarantee whatever. And then I just don't love how they go about it, especially with the percentage of back pay. So I think we're looking at rolling this out. And so if you see it in the description, if we have that rolled out by the time this video comes out, I'll put it in the description and you can click on it and check out what we're going to be doing. This is going to be a new launch, so I don't have any idea what that looks like, but I don't recommend you do it alone when you go, like your initial filing, sure. But after that, when you go to like fight and like try to get tweak things with the VA, having a guide is very recommended. So if we have something started by then, great. And if not, I will put the contact info of one of my best friends who does this for a living, because he's the best in the business. He'll treat you fair, and just go ask him. He'll shoot you straight. And you don't have to work with him. Like, he'll shoot you straight and be like, you need to do these 3 things and you'll be taken care of. This isn't about gaming the VA system. This is about making sure you get the benefits you deserve from the injuries that you sustained while serving your country. Real quick, I want to talk through some VA disability deadlines that you need to know. And I'm probably just going to look down at my screen and my notes to make sure I get this all right, because I want to move kind of quick through this. So the first one is filing your initial claim. There's no formal deadline to start a claim, but the effective date for benefits is the date that the VA receives your claim. So that's why you want to file as you're leaving service. So it's the day you exit service is that effective date of your claim for back pay, because the longer you wait, you may not be guaranteed that back pay within that timeline. Now, if you file within 1 year of leaving active duty, then the effective date can be your separation date. But if it's been a year since you left active duty, you can't necessarily back pay all the way to that. It'll be the day you file. So this is why you don't want to just sit on this. Like, that's a whole year. Like, let's say you were 100% permanent in total. That's $40,000 plus all the benefits that you missed out on for a year. That's just not, like, that's dumb. So like, file as you're EASing, and if not, like, file as soon as you can. For supplemental claims, you need to file within 1 year of the date of your decision letter. If you're going to submit new and relevant evidence, once that year passes, you can file again later, but you won't be able to back pay. It'll go effective date for when you filed. So, again, you're just missing out on money if you miss this year mark. So initial claim within first year of EAS, you can go to separation date. Once you get your decision letter, you can file a supplemental claim within that year, and it'll start at the day you got your decision letter, because you don't want to be dragging this out. For a higher level review, it's 1 year from the date of your decision letter, same. And a higher level review is just, you don't have to submit new evidence like the supplemental claim, because the supplemental claim is for like new and relevant evidence to tweak what you're filing. The higher level review is just like, hey, I really think someone messed something up here. Can you look at it again? Like with me, with my ear, the higher level review was just, oh shoot, we messed that up. If you're going to do a Board of Veterans Appeals, a BVA, then you've got 1 year from the decision date to file a notice of disagreement, which is where like you really think that something's messed up here. This is a direct review. This is no hearing, but it's the fastest review. And you've got to submit your evidence for this within 90 days of filing. You can choose between a direct review, which is the fastest. There's no hearing. They just look it over. Or you can submit evidence, which you have to submit within 90 days, or a hearing. But this is the longest wait, but it is the way that you get to actually tell your story, right? For evidence submission deadlines, for a supplemental claim, you can submit evidence at any time, but the earlier is the better to speed up the process. And for the BVA that we just mentioned, it's within 90 days from your notice of disagreement. The VA is going to schedule all your CMP exams for you. Do not miss one. And if you can't make it, call and reschedule. Just don't miss these because the VA, they might deny it in the meantime because you're missing appointments when you said these were important. So call and reschedule if you get set up for one that you can't make. If you're going to appeal to the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, CAVC, you have to do that within 120 days from the DVA decision mailing date. So if you file for the Board of Veterans Appeals BVA deadline, and that still does not get you what you think you deserve, then you can do a CAVC, which is a Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, within 120 days of getting that decision letter from the BVA, and that's the last step. For this, you're going to need a qualified attorney. But I don't know anyone who's actually had to go all the way through that personally. But that is kind of the process, right? So you file, then you've got supplemental or higher level review. And then if those don't work, then you do a BVA. And if that still doesn't work, you do a CAVC. No deadline on your initial claim, but file within a year of getting out. Don't be an idiot. Supplemental claim within a year of your decision letter on your initial. Higher level review is also within a year of your decision letter on your initial. BVA also on within a year of your decision letter from supplemental or higher. And then you got to submit the evidence for that within 90 days. And then the CAVC is within 120 days of your BVA appeal. So make sure you get all this right. All that being said, guys, I am not telling you to try to game the game. I'm not telling you all deserve 100% permanent and total disability, because you don't. Not everybody had those issues. I am not the guy to come in here and talk about everybody deserves 100, go and make stuff up and lie and what. I'm not the guy who's going to do that. But if you have issues, file and take care of yourself. You're not milking the system to get covered for the things that you actually had bothering you. The fact that I got blown up and I got a TBI from it, that means my testicles don't produce testosterone anymore and I have to take testosterone replacement therapy for the rest of my life. That's not my fault. And if I don't file, I'm going to get to be like this nasty, gross, fat who has no energy because I have no testosterone, and that's just not a good life. So filing through the VA gets you take care of yourself. But if you don't have something wrong, if you legitimately you never deployed, you never had injuries, you had a really easygoing career, you didn't document anything, you just whatever, then that's fine. If you're healthy after service, that's the real benefit. That's the blessing. Don't go and try to muck everything up for everybody else by trying to game the system and milk it, because eventually that's how we're going to get stuff pulled back on the disability side, just like the VA loan. I don't recommend anyone misuse the VA loan. These are benefits. They're incredible. They're wonderful. But the moment vets start misusing them and trying to really just benefit off the government instead of just enjoying the benefits we get is when they start cracking down on stuff even worse. And I've made videos on this in the past. I know the VA is not perfect, but they're way damn better than they used to be. And the U.S. takes care of its veterans better than any other country in the world. So please don't come at me in the comments whining about the VA. I know it's not perfect, but it is better than any other country in the world. And they're trying and they're improving. And so if you go into the VA with a miserable attitude, you're going to have a miserable experience. But if you go into the VA, looking at the silver lining and trying to make the best of things, you're going to have a much better experience, and your outcome is going to be a much more likely to be what you want. So the VA is great, and they're doing really well. There's room for improvement, but they really are. And I really hope you got something out of this video. Comment down below if I missed something in here and you're like, oh my God, people need to know this, whatever. And, subscribe and share this with somebody who's leaving the service soon and could benefit from it. But I hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you later.